Champ Tony Stewart ready to go. Partly cloudy, temperature in the 80s. We can expect engines and possibly tempers to boil over. From our Hollywood hotel, glad you were with us for the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. He is our superstar crew chief, Jeff Hammond. I'm Chris Devoda. And Jeff, NASCAR's most dramatic day, always filled with high hopes, and we no crushed dreams.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And the thing is, when you think about the guys that are locked in, you know, Tony Stewart, Kevin Harvick, even Dale Earnhardt Jr., this is a big old test. They can race when they want to race, and if they don't like the situation, they can get out of it. But there's some guys right now, when you think about Robbie Gordon, Michael McDowell, Mike Wallace, and our own Michael Waltrip, it's go or go home, and they have nothing else but to lay it all on the line. I've been there before, and I understand what these guys are going through. It's gut-wrenching, I can promise you that.
Okay, so we talk about these handful of drivers who are living the drama. Let's go ahead and show you our Toyota race format. 2 races is what we're going to see today, 60 laps each, but the top 2 finishers in each duel not locked in. Those are the ones we're going to be following and watching. They make the Daytona 500.
All eyes are on those 2 positions right now and what they can do.
And you see Carl Edwards, he's pretty relaxed, but remember he talked about he has to sort of lay back a little bit or at least not wreck that car. He's on the pole.
He has the opportunity to pick or choose when he doesn't like the situation, and Bob Osborne will keep him honest.
And we know a lot of folks, in fact, Kenny Wallace, a big Trevor Bayne fan, we saw him there because if Trevor Bayne can race his way in, it means Kenny Wallace can fall back on that qualifying speed.
He gets the ticket to the big one.
All right, we know Danica's in the field as well. Let's head back for today's command.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome 3-time Olympic gold medalist and Daytona Beach area native Ryan Lochte as he delivers the most famous words in motorsports.
Drivers, start your engines.
When the dust settles and the duel is over, we may also know which drivers have the upper hand to win Sunday's Daytona 500. Could Danica possibly do it? It all starts right now. Speed's presentation of the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. It's the Gatorade Duel at Daytona, the first of 2 great races today on Speed, about to begin. We know danger and excitement lurk around every turn. I'm Chris Devoda along with Jeff Hammond. We are about to see if Michael Waltrip, the newest member of our NASCAR team, can race his way into the Daytona 500. And that's why upstairs calling the race along with Mike Joy and Larry McReynolds is an extremely interested and excited analyst. Hey, Mike, will you be able to keep Darrell Waltrip under control?
Well, I think so. He's up here. He's not in the race car. Where a good bit of control is going to be needed. Now, in this first dual race, there are 18 drivers who already know they'll be in the Daytona 500. If you're one of those, Darrell, what's your agenda?
Couple of things, Mike. First of all, as a driver locked in, particularly if I was Carl Edwards, don't beat yourself. Don't do something really dumb that would take you and your car and have to go to a backup, maybe lose that front row starting spot. But there are a bunch of other guys in this race that have new combinations, new crew chiefs, some drivers and some different cars. So everybody that's starting this race today, almost across the board, have an agenda to get something done in this race leading up to the 500 on Sunday.
And Larry, 7 of the drivers in this race and the next one are trying to race their way into the Daytona 500. There's only 2 spots available. Are these the desperate hours?
Well, there is. And a lot of things have to happen right for those drivers, Mike, to qualify into the 500. You have to have drafting friends. You're going to make one pit stop. It needs to be mistake-free. When we get to the closing laps of these 2 races, for those drivers, there'll be a lot of figuring. Where am I running? How am I relating to those other guys that I'm racing? Talked to Michael Waltrip this morning, loved what he told me. He said, Larry, if I go up there and I finish 1st or 2nd in the race, with everything that can happen on the last lap, I don't have to worry about where I'm running.
It's true. Michael Waltrip trying to race his way into the Daytona 500. That's his best chance. He has a slim chance to fall back on time, but racing in is the best way to make it on Sunday. Matt Yoakum spoke to Carl Edwards about his agenda today.
Carl Edwards can't improve his starting spot for Sunday's Daytona 500, but he can certainly make it worse. Yeah. So with the pole-sitting car, how aggressive do you run today's duel? What's the game plan?
The game plan at the start is just go. Try to lead, you know, have some fun, figure out how this Fastenal Fusion's handling. But if it gets real ugly, you know, Bob has given me strict instructions not to mess up this race car. But, you know, it's Daytona, and we've got time. We got a lot of practice left. We got a great backup car. So even the worst case scenario, if we were to crash the car, have trouble, we've got that first pit stall, and we got a lot of practice left. So not a lot of pressure. Just gonna go have some fun and see what we can learn.
Love the win from the pole on Sunday.
Thoughts of Carl Edwards, who will start on the pole on Sunday for the Great American Race. Here's a look at the Gatorade starting grid for duel number 1. It's the Ford of Edwards and the Chevy of Dale Earnhardt Jr., who has 3 wins in these qualifying events. Marcus Ambrose and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., the nationwide champ, both in Fords in row 2. The defending champion of the 500, Trevor Bayne, alongside the defending Sprint Cup champion, Tony Stewart, a Ford and a Chevrolet. Eric Almirola, the new driver in Richard Petty's Ford, and Paul Menard has been strong this week in practice in his Chevy. David Reagan moves over to Front Row Motorsports and their Ford team. A.J. Allmendinger has moved to Roger Penske's team in a Dodge. Brad Keselowski, the lead driver at Penske, in a Dodge, and Kevin Harvick in a Chevrolet. Jeff Burton has one qualifying event win. He and Juan Pablo Montoya, both in Chevys, row 7. David Stremme, speed will get him into the 500. What will he do today in his Toyota? And Jamie McMurray, a former 500 winner. There is Danica Patrick, who will start from the 9th row alongside Terry Labonte, who won this race in '89. Michael Waltrip is going to have to come from row 10, where he lines up next to Denny Hamlin, who won one of these in 2008. Michael McDowell driving for Phil Parsons. He raced his way in a couple of years ago. Landon Castle for the new BK team. Then David Gilliland in a front row Ford, and Mike Wallace in a Ford trying to race his way in for 24th. And finally, Robbie Gordon's Dodge is the 25th starter in the field.
Well, let's see if we can talk to Michael McDowell. Hey, Michael McDowell, this is Darrell Waltrip up in the Fox Sports booth, speed booth today. Got a copy?
Yeah, I got you, D-Dub.
Hey, buddy, you raced your way in here in 10, and you missed a race last year. Got a pretty good hot rod today. What's your ticket for making the 500?
We know it's going to be exciting, but you know, I'm excited to be driving this Curvax Janian 98 car for K-Love. And the key is just to beat all those other go-go homers. I got your brother here in front of me, which last time I checked, he was pretty good here too. So just going to try to find some friends out there, maybe hook up with my buddy Trevor Bayne or Ricky Stenhouse and get to the front, try to stay up there.
Good deal, buddy. Sounds like you got a plan, and you got some good friends, so good luck.
All right, thank you, guys.
Michael McDowell will start 21st. Let's get down to pit road for late-breaking stories, beginning with Matt Yoakum.
Mike Dale Earnhardt Jr. shares the front row with Carl Edwards. The message from crew chief Steve Letarte is simple. Play, have fun, but race smart during this duel. We don't want to have to pull a backup car out and use a mulligan. They have a very impressive car from practice, and Dale Jr., he's got that swagger back, Mike, and he's got the confidence back. So Junior Nation should be very excited as we head ever closer to the Daytona 500. To Dick Bergeron.
Trevor Bayne won last year's Daytona 500, and he has had a very fast car this speed weeks as well. So take it easy in this race, preserve the car, or go for it. They're going to go for it. They want another Daytona trophy. Steve Burns.
Dick, Kevin Harvick entering his 12th full year for Richard Childress Racing. Never a Sprint Cup champion. To that end, he's made changes in his personal and professional life. He and his wife have sold their race teams. He has a new crew chief. Many of the team members are new, and he and his wife expecting their first child July 23rd.
Thanks, fellas. As we get ready to race in Daytona, I think the big question mark in this event is inside row number 3, Trevor Bayne. He knows his speed is fast enough to get him in the 500. And Darrell, might he be a little gun shy, because last year in the qualifying race, on the very last lap, they ended up doing a lot of damage to that car. Whether or not he goes the distance in this may help seal the fate of several other drivers trying to make the show.
I think it's simple, Mike. If you're in a situation where you're uncomfortable, you got somebody back there moving all around the back of your car, pushing on that bumper, you better get them off of the bumper. They're going to spin you out. So you got to use your head today. You got to pick a partner that you're comfortable with. Then you need to stay up front. Even though there's no real safe place, I'd rather be up front.
Why are car owners and crew chiefs so nervous coming into Thursday? It's because the slightest of contacts all week long have resulted in calamity, whether it was in practice or in the Budweiser shootout. a lot of cars have been damaged by what just looks like incidental contact.
And it's just so slight a touch on the left rear this year. These cars are a lot looser than they were here last year. The spoiler size has been reduced. The rear spring rates have been reduced. These cars are real free in the back end. And if it takes a little touch like that, and around you go. And every now and then,
over you go.
Over you go.
Plenty of sparks so far as we get set to go 60 laps here in Daytona. 55 along pit road. And the fuel window, Larry, is going to be critical. How soon do you want to stop?
Well, I think if you get to where you can make it to the end, if you get somewhere around lap 12 to 15 and you get a caution, I think we'll see all these drivers on pit road. At least you get that out of the way. You're full of fuel to go to the end.
Last night on Speed, you saw Kenny Wallace and his lead up to Thursday trying to make the race here in Daytona. The drivers above that white line we know will be in the race, at least on Speed or perhaps Champions Provisional in Terry Labonte's case. Everyone else below the line trying to race in or hope that someone above the line races in and they can fall back on their speed. Kenny.
Come on, big guy, suck it up.
Yeah,
it's all right.
He'll be in race number 2. He and his wife Kim looking on and trying to lock in. Across the top of the screen, our ticker will show 2 positions in green. Those are the 2 cars that at that moment are in the field based on their race position. We'll deal with speeds and provisionals later, but just the top 2 in that group of go or go homers will be shown as we get ready to begin the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. Green flag in the air. Carl Edwards hauls him off toward turn 1. Robbie Gordon in trouble. Smoke billowing from his Dodge toward the back of the pack. Gordon's only shot to make the race, to race his way in today.
Yeah, he cannot fall back on his qualifying time, so this is not good for Robbie Gordon here on the first lap of this Gatorade Duel.
Could be a couple of things. Could be a tire rub. Sometimes they work on the engines. They get a little oil on the headers, messing around with it. But that looks like possibly a tire rub.
Right front on Robbie Gordon. Carl Edwards led them to the green. He will lead lap 1 with Dale Jr. in tow and Ricky Stenhouse. Now he moves up high and he could get freight trained on both sides. Nope, back down to the bottom. Tony Stewart on the charge. Up high with Paul Menard and his Richard Childress teammate in the 29 Kevin Harvick giving Menard an assist.
One thing I noticed, really strong tailwind going down this back straightaway. That'll pick you up 7, 8, 10 miles an hour. Hauling off into that third turn could change your car dramatically.
Trevor Bayne, Michael Waltrip in the race in spots right now. Three wide mid-pack. That's Jeff Burton in the middle. Just up ahead of Michael Waltrip. One thing we saw a lot of in practice was Menard and Harvick working together, constantly pushing. They're on the outside, but, well, the bottom lane's going to go for now.
It's amazing the way it works here, though. The Fords had so much speed in single car qualifying, but when you put them in a big pack, you start drafting, it becomes an equalizer. Anybody can go up there.
Yeah, one thing that you really, you look at this right now and say, okay, we're okay, pretty calm, everything's going well. But, man, as we've seen, just one little tap on that left rear by someone accidentally, and you're in big trouble.
And back that pair of Menard and Harvick go as Trevor Bayne and Michael McDowell are now in the transfer spots. McDowell on the bubble ahead of Waltrip, Labonte, Wallace, and Stremme.
Mike, you're driving these cars. I mean, obviously the driver's in control, but with the wind blowing the way it is, the turbulence off the other cars, these things move around more than you think they do, and sometimes it wiggles and the guy bumps you from the rear, and around you go.
One car on pit road, Landon Castle. Changing tires. Now he is locked into the 500 field. Edwards and Bayne working together, trying to split the Chevrolets of Stewart and Earnhardt. Almirola in a third Ford coming up the inside in the 43.
You know, another thing today, Larry, it's hotter today. Bright sunshine on this racetrack, pretty warm temperatures. That changes the way your car drives as well.
You look up there at the front, though, you see Trevor Bayne in that 21 pushing Carl Edwards. Remember, they finished 1-2 in the Daytona 500, just reverse of what they were last year. But there goes Dale Earnhardt Jr. to the bottom. He takes the lead.
Well, Carl got loose, Larry. Carl got loose, and Trevor had to get off of him, and it broke their momentum.
Murray with a look outside of Menard as Bayne tries to help Edwards back to the front. It is Marcus Ambrose, the Tasmanian, in second spot now behind Junior as they come to complete 5 laps. Edwards to the bottom with Bayne. Can't get the lead at the line.
We're 5 laps into this, and we have 15 drivers within 3/4 of a second of each other.
Trevor went into turn 1 then, and the car really went up the hill, but he was able to stay in contact with Carl. And now Trevor looks like he's going to drop to the inside of the 21 car and go to the lead.
An interesting combination of the 2-car push-pull and pack racing in these opening laps.
Oh boy, get ready for some noise.
It's Denny Hamlin in the 11 being pushed back McMurray in the 1. Denny Hamlin started back in the 20th position in that 11 car.
Four cars trying to break away single file at the front and not getting very far away, are they? Dick Bergman?
Well, Denny Hamlin told me right before the start of this race that he wasn't going to try to preserve his car either. It was to the front. That is number 11's strategy in this event.
You know, Mike, about 15 laps, 15 to 18 laps, that's when the tires have built up max pressure. That's when all your temps are at max operating temperature. And that's when your car starts to change. Burning off a little fuel, things starts to tighten up a little bit. Right now, we're in a transition from the way the car started to what you're going to have the rest of the race.
Right now, the transfer spots, Michael McDowell and Trevor Bayne. Steve Burns?
Mike, just listening to Kevin Harvick, he said that it was a little bit too early. He didn't want the engine to get too hot, to be pushing too much right now.
We definitely have warmer temperatures today than we had in practice yesterday, and for sure in the Budweiser shootout on Saturday night. That's something your driver really has to be careful about.
You know, Larry, right now, if I were in the race, I would be locked in pretty in a starting position for the 500. I'm not so sure I wouldn't just ride around a little bit here. Stay in contact and let things shake out. Stay on the lead lap, but don't get up there and get too racy just right now.
Suddenly shot to the outside wall and took 3 more with it. That's Paul Menard on the right, Montoya in the middle, and that's David Gilliland to the left. There was one other car involved, but one car, I believe Montoya's, took a huge hit to the outside wall.
Yeah, something happened. The car just shot up the banking. Let's see if we can get a look at it.
Left lane to the inside, Gilliland.
Oh, he's loose. He's already sideways getting in, and he just comes right back up the hill.
Looked like Michael McDowell got David Gilliland in that left rear quarter panel, turning off in the corner. You were talking about that.
Yep.
Now, all 3 of these cars are in the race. You're going to look way to the right side of the screen.
Man, it came back up that hill in a hurry.
Yeah, Montoya in the 42, Menard in the 27, just victims, nowhere to go.
And the 4th car involved is Brad Keselowski in the 2, who has come to pit road for repairs. Here's another look. Trevor Bayne got a little damage, not much.
McDowell was real lucky he didn't get involved in that 98 car.
Danica Patrick scoots past, and all 3 of these drivers have climbed from their cars okay.
The 2 cars on pit road as well. He had some damage, got some right side damage.
Gosh. Easy. Slow down. You can go low. Clear all the way low to the apron. Get down to the apron. Let's go. Get through there. Good job.
Our Fox and Speed Exmo, extreme slow motion. of what was Juan Pablo Montoya's car.
Look at that. I mean, just look at all the parts and pieces. The engine is moving. The radiator is falling out. Those bars that are all welded to the frame coming off. That thing is it's just coming apart.
Well, when this wreck starts, these drivers are going off in the corner almost 200 miles an hour.
Among the interested onlookers, Kenny and Kim Wallace. Kenny will be in race 2 trying to race his way in. Now this accident on lap 9 has no effect on Wallace's chances because it involved 4 cars that are locked into the 500.
But do you see, Kenny Wallace is a race car driver. You see his reaction. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's like I am. When I see a wreck like that, the first thing I think of is, man, I hope nobody gets hurt. And it's the mentality of a driver.
Pit stops, Dick Berggren.
Trevor Bayne coming down pit road for fuel at least, and tires as well. He almost certainly is going to need more fuel to finish it. Matt.
Dale Jr. easy into his pit box, not to slide the tires. Slight chassis adjustment, and Caleb Hurd tops him off. Steve.
Matt, Richard Childress Racing teammates Jeff Burton and Kevin Harvick in, both taking 4 tires at gas. They think they're close enough to their window where they might be able to make it. Harvick concerned about running a little bit too hot.
Dale Jr. leads the race off pit road, and Carl Edwards, who will start the 500 from the pole, is in no hurry. Marcus Ambrose stayed on the racetrack. So did Denny Hamlin, David Stremme, and Terry Labonte. Grinding crash down in turn 1. A 4-car pileup in turn number 1, primarily Paul Menard, David Gilliland. Gilliland spinning off the front bumper of Michael McDowell, taking Montoya and Menard to the wall, and some right side damage for Brad Keselowski. Here's another look at it, and Gilliland's team has 3 cars entered in the 500 and only 2 backup cars. Juan Pablo Montoya's Target Chevrolet taking the long ride back to the garage area. He probably received the most damage of all the cars involved in this lap 9 pileup. Now immediately following the duel at Daytona, stay right here on Speed for NASCAR Victory Lane. Hear from the duel winners, see how the field will start the 500 and more. All on NASCAR Victory Lane immediately following the Gatorade Duel at Daytona right here on Speed. A number of cars came in and topped off during this last caution lap, leaving only Marcus Ambrose and Denny Hamlin, who have not stopped at the front of this field.
Yeah, Kevin Harvick, Jeff Burton, and Danica Patrick came back to pit road. They got the 1 to go. That's 48 laps to go. I think they can make it to the end now.
Of 60 laps complete. Ambrose out front on the inside with his teammate at Richard Petty Motorsports, Eric Almirola, trying to give him a boost. Now Dale Earnhardt Jr. had to restart in the back. Matt?
Mike, an issue during their pit stop. One of the crew members went over the wall too soon. He said that he slipped and fell, but nonetheless, he was over the wall too soon. NASCAR penalized him since Jr. was coming back down pit road. What Steve Letarte did was simply go to his backup plan. 4 fresh tires, and he took a lot of time packing that fuel cell full of fuel.
The other issue Junior has, not an issue necessarily, but he's telling his spotter up there, talk, man, talk. Tell me what's going on. Talk constantly.
You see Robbie Gordon right there in the 7 car. I think that caution was a huge break for him. Remember when the race started, he had a lot of smoke coming out of the right front. They stayed on the racetrack. They made the repairs under that caution, and he's not in the transfer spot, but he's sitting there running close to the top 10.
That's the whole thing, Larry. As long as you can stay on the lead lap until the very end here, get everybody grouped up in these big packs, you got a chance.
3 cars knocked out in that crash at lap 9. Dick Berggren is with one of the drivers.
If the car can't be driven back to the garage, the driver goes to the care center. Paul Menard has just walked out of the care center. What happened?
Oh, I don't know. I saw Gilliland got spun on the bottom, and I kept my foot in trying to clear it, and just didn't quite make it. But you know, this this plate racing deal is pretty tough right now. It's kind of a hybrid of the two, the pack draft and the tandem draft, and just not working out very well.
Going to start in the back of the Daytona 500. Paul Menard.
Thanks, Dick. Also in the garage, Landon Castle drove into the garage. First car out of the race. Terry Labonte, after a long pit stop, has just gone to the garage, so he will make the 500, virtue of the champions provisional. Gilliland, Montoya, and Menard also out as Tony Stewart comes back to the lead.
What Menard is saying is it's kind of like, I'm not sure, you know, I know pushing is faster, but it's also more treacherous. And so you're sitting there, do or don't, and that indecision sometimes gets you in a lot of trouble.
You see Michael McDowell right there in the 98 car. Remember what Michael Waltrip told me this morning. Go up there and finish in the top 2. You don't have to worry about who you beat. Michael McDowell is inside the top 5 right now with that 98 car.
Well, I sort of remember what he told me when we talked to him on the parade lap. I got some good buddies out here, and one of them's right behind him.
Trevor Bayne in that 21.
And Trevor Bayne's biggest fan right now is Kenny Wallace, because if Bayne races his way into the 500, that opens up a place in the big race for the next fastest car from time trial speed, and that would be Kenny.
See on the outside there, now the other Richard Childress driver is out of the show. Paul Menard, we just talked to him, but you see Jeff Burton in the 31 being pushed by Kevin Harvick in that 29.
And just remember, the 11 car of Denny Hamlin leading the race. Where did he start?
37th in qualifying.
And so, you know, Junior has to go to the back. You know, it's not a big deal in this kind of racing.
Denny Hamlin has come from 20th on the grid to 1st. Now, he did stay out when everyone else made pit stops, but he has the front spot, and right now the 2 transfer positions are Michael McDowell, 2nd overall, and Trevor Bayne.
Yeah, we know Denny Hamlin in the 11 and also Marcus Ambrose in the 9, who's running 15th right now. They still have to make a pit stop to make it on fuel.
So watch these guys go off in the first turn. I think back to that wreck. Those guys are entering that corner right at 200 mile an hour. So when you get in trouble going in a corner like that, you've only got about 40 feet to brush it, run off 200 mile an hour speed before you hit the wall.
18 laps complete, and this pack has spread itself out quite a bit from what we saw in the first 8 laps.
Look at Michael Waltrip in the 40 on the outside. He's moved back into the top 10, but still not in one of the transfer spots. Right now, that's McDowell and Bayne running 3rd and 7th.
And Bayne dropping way back, and Michael Waltrip passes Trevor on the outside, and now McDowell and Waltrip are in the transfer positions. I mean, Dale Jr. wasted no time getting back toward the front as he and Jamie McMurray worked the outside.
Yeah, we just restarted this race 6 laps ago. He had to start at the rear, and there he's up there inside the top 5.
Well, when you're in the back like that, it's like a big old vacuum cleaner. It's just sucking you right to the front.
Right now, McDowell and Waltrip in. There's Bayne trying to help McDowell, who presently is back in.
And this is the seesaw battle we're going to see right to the very end. And that's why I say, as long as you can stay kind of in a little bit of a hunt, you're going to be okay. You got a shot.
One-third distance in the first of 2. Gatorade Duel 150s at Daytona. Denny Hamlin, Tony Stewart, Kevin Harvick out front. 24 complete at Daytona in the first of the Gatorade Duels. Denny Hamlin, Tony Stewart, Kevin Harvick, Michael McDowell, Trevor Bayne in the qualified positions. Bayne battling Michael Waltrip for the bubble spot.
I really like the way Trevor is in the 21 car is drafting, though. I noticed when he was with McDowell, he would push in all the right places. Then he'd back off, get a little cushion in the corners. He's got a fast car. He can run up there anytime he wants to, but he's really using that fast car wisely.
Mike Wallace came to pit road. His Point.com Ford went back out after a lengthy stop. 2 laps down in his attempt to make the 500. Steve Burns.
Mike, just heard Eric Almirola talk about getting a big shove going into turn 3. He told his team, I had the wheel turned all the way to the left, but it would not turn. The car wanted to keep going straight. We're going to have to fix that for the 500.
He is right behind Jamie Mack on the outside.
I know what that feels like, man. You go in a corner and the car is so light on the front tires. Normally, you just need to take those shock absorbers and suck that thing down a little tighter to the track.
We're riding with Danica Patrick in the 10. Remember, she was one of the drivers that came back to pit road and topped off. And Matt, she is back up in the top 10 of this 10 car.
And a lot of compliments from her spotter, Mark Robertson, a longtime spotter. In fact, he scored 2 championships with Tony Stewart back in the Joe Gibbs days. He is helping her work her way through traffic. Greg Zipadelli said the same thing to her when they hit pit road. They brought her back in the top off. The only comment that she really had about the car was that it was running a little bit warm, but not in the danger zone.
Thanks, Matt. She looks to be staying down against that yellow line and making good use of the draft. Patrick right now in 9th place.
You know, I used to do the rookie meetings a long time ago, and I would always tell rookies, the best when you've had a good day is when you walk out of the garage and nobody is saying anything bad about you.
As I've been watching this inside line with Tony Stewart, our current champion in that 14, pushing Denny Hamlin. Remember, they were teammates at Joe Gibbs Racing. But I think the biggest thing, one of the big changes during the offseason, Darian Grubb, Tony Stewart's crew chief from last year, moved from Stewart Haas Racing to Joe Gibbs Racing. Now Denny Hamlin's crew chief this year.
Mike Wallace's car, aerodynamically challenged from that early accident, has gone to the garage. There's Darian Grubb atop the pit box in new colors for this year.
I mean, that was a lot like if Tom Coughlin pretty much left the Giants and went to another football team for this upcoming football season.
A little more 3 wide mid-pack here. From 8th place on back, Ambrose, the man in the middle, in the number 9. Now McMurray drops down in front of him, and Almirola. And the pack shuffles again. What I like about this, Darrell, is nobody's driving away from anybody else. We saw Dale Jr. march to the front, drop back to hang out back, and a lot of people moving back and forth.
Let's see what Mikey sees here. He's kind of just sitting there in the catbird seat, I think, riding along. He sees all that pack in front of him. He knows he can draft up there to any of those guys anytime. I think a lot of these guys are playing cat and mouse right now. I don't think they want to show anybody what they can do. I think you're going to see some 2-car drafts here at the end of this thing. They're going to try to work their way right to the front and blow by everybody.
David Stremme has taken his Toyota to the garage, but Stremme will be in the 500 based on his qualifying speed from Sunday. Halfway, next time by.
I know we still got a long ways to go. I just believe the combination to watch is that 98 car, Michael McDowell, with his buddy, his friend, Trevor Bayne in that 21. You can see they're hooked right together through 3 and 4. We got a long way to go, but I think that's the combination to watch as far as drivers racing their way into the 500.
There they are behind the cat car of Jeff Burton on the outside. And right now, McDowell and Bayne are in the 2 transfer spots.
Most of the time, a driver's mentality is, I'll go with whoever can help me. I'll help them if they can help me. That's kind of the way it is when you get down to the end of the race.
Last time around, Michael McDowell in the 98.
Oh boy.
A lot of air pressure there.
Man, there is, and it's getting under the, you see this lip right here. When that hood is bucking up and down like that right there, it'll work those hood pins out. That could be a big problem for him.
Seeing a little bit of water spit out there at the base of the right side of the windshield, running a little bit warm.
Halfway in the first race of the Gatorade Duel, Denny Hamlin leads them around Daytona. 35 laps complete, only 1 caution flag so far. Lap 9, a 4-car pileup. 4 cars on track racing for the 2 transfer spots. Right now it's McDowell and Bayne. Can Waltrip or Robbie Gordon move up? Here are the cars behind the wall and out of this race. Most all of them will be in the Daytona 500, all except Mike Wallace have a way to get into the race on Sunday.
You know what makes me nervous about kind of where we are right now? It gives some of these guys way too much time to make a plan as to how they're going to win this thing or get into the race. Makes me a little nervous.
Well, speaking of time, the sand is running out of the hour.
I really like the strategy that I think Danica and a couple others played. Come back down and topped up before we went back to green. That assures them that they can make it.
Well, and what that also does, Darrell, if we get into overtime, a green-white checkered, it gives them a little more insurance.
Agree.
Denny Hamlin won his qualifying race here in Daytona in 2008. He has led most of the laps. Tony Stewart holding station in second. Harvick third. Ricky Stenhouse, the Nationwide Series champion, and Jack Roush's number 6. A car that was not expected to compete. Sponsorship from Ford at the last minute, and Roush holding one of those guaranteed top 35 spots for the first 5 races. Taps Stenhouse to fill the seat, and he's having a fine drive here.
I had to pat Jack Roush on the back. The confident, this kid was out of his Nationwide car. They parked him because he wrecked too much. Set him on the sidelines for a little while, let him kind of watch and kind of figure it all out, put him back in there, and he went out there and he won the championship. Now, this kid's got a good head on his shoulders. He's a quick learner, and I like this guy. I think he's a lot like Trevor Bayne. They got a great future ahead of them.
Yeah, this is only his second Sprint Cup Series start. He set in for Trevor Bayne at Charlotte last May, had a great qualifying run, ended up finishing 11th.
David Gilliland released from the Care Center after that crash in turn 1 on lap 9. Dick Berggren, how about our leader?
Well, Denny Hamlin's plan is to pit in approximately 5 laps. He asked Darian Grubb, his crew chief, if he could talk some other people into pitting at the same time so he's not a lone soldier after that pit stop. Grubb told him it's already taken care of.
I guess that other person would have to include the number 9 of Marcus Ambrose, who's not yet been to pit road. Right now, McDowell and Bayne in the 2 transfer spots. Michael Waltrip 3 spots back of that. And right behind Michael, there is Dale Earnhardt Jr. Matt?
Marcos Ambrose was asking Todd Parrott, who do I need to get close to? He knows he's going to have to pit soon. And Todd told him that we are going to pit with the leader, Denny Hamlin. So that's who they're going to be teaming up with here shortly. And meanwhile, talking about the 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr., Mike, we documented he came back down pit road and topped off with fuel. They were asking Junior how much throttle he is using. Junior simply said, in the turns, half throttle. I'm riding around in 3/4 throttle, and when I want to really pull up and get up to the front, it's full throttle.
It's funny he said that because when we're in the car with him, I heard him backing off the gas, and I thought, well, his car must be handling bad, but he's trying to save a little fuel, and that's one of the unknowns with this fuel injection, Larry. We just really don't know how much fuel you can save.
We're learning every single lap.
Michael McDowell, for the second time in 3 years, trying to race his way into the Daytona 500.
Give me some fuel now, Michael. We need to save fuel. I don't know how to do that when we're wide open, never lifted, Gene. So you got to tell me what you want to do. I want you to save me some fuel. So if you got to lift a little here and there, let's do that.
That's a tall order. You're telling a man that's trying to race his way into the Daytona 500, you've got to save fuel at a track you run wide open.
Let me ask you something, Larry, and as a driver. Do I want to look bad as a driver and not make the race, or do I want to look good as a driver and the car runs out of gas?
Yeah, that's a box.
No.
That is a box.
I know what I'm going to do.
Listen to Michael Waltrip's engine as he gets closer there to Jamie Mack. Well, part of the magic of drafting is it doesn't matter if you're on the racetrack or the highway. If you're tucked up close behind somebody, you don't need to run as much throttle as the lead car to maintain that same speed.
You're right, Mike. And one thing you got to watch here now when these guys get up front here, get ready to make these pit stops, man, it's so easy to get run over from behind. You got to let the guys know you're coming. You got to get that hand up. You got to wave.
And that's happening right now. Here comes Denny Hamlin in the 11. He's hitting pit road as well as Ambrose in the 9.
Dick Berggren.
It's going to be a 2-tire change as well as fuel, and this is the same crew that pitted him last year. Oh, so many teams, new people over the wall, not this one. These guys are very experienced at doing what they're doing right now. Matt.
And Dick, they've called an audible at one point. They were just going to go with fuel only. Now they're going to go right side tires on the 9 machine. Solid stop, and he's away, waiting on his new teammate there, the 11 of Denny Hamlin.
The 9 car of Ambrose almost had to do the same thing as 11. It's important those two drivers leave pit road together and try to hook up, but I still believe it's going to take a caution to get them back into this thing.
Yeah, about all they can really do is try to stay on the lead lap right now and hope for a late caution.
44 laps complete. Tony Stewart is the new leader with Hamlin's pit stop. We apologize for audio difficulties somewhere along our transmission path. I believe we have that fixed for you. Tony Stewart leads Kevin Harvick both in Chevys, then the Fords of Stenhouse and Almirola. The Chevy of Burton, the Dodge of Allmendinger are the top half dozen, with McDowell and Waltrip right now in the 2 transfer spots to the 500. Steve Burns.
Mike, I'm going to update you on a few Chevrolet teams. It's really close, real close on gas for Kevin Harvick in the 29, Jeff Burton in the 31, and Tony Stewart in the 14. The teammates, Jeff Burton and Kevin Harvick, about a lap short. The 14 about 3/4 of a lap short. They're trying to save fuel when they can. Matt?
Steve, an update on some other Chevrolets. The 10 of Danica Patrick, they are close. I just talked to Steve Letarte. They are close as well. Remember, those 2 cars both came back in the top off. And the 1 of Jamie McMurray, he is 3 to 4 laps short. His issue, he lost his teammate Juan Pablo Montoya earlier, so he's trying to find someone to pit with.
I'll tell you something I think is going to shape up here before it's over with. Michael and Junior, they'll work together because they kind of talked about it. And then McDowell and Bain, they've already worked out a little bit of deal to work together. So I think that's going to be the 2-car tandems that are going to really try to go right at the end.
Right now, Michael Waltrip and Michael McDowell in the 2 transfer spots. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Michael Waltrip have finished 1-2 in this race twice, and in Sprint Cup point races at Daytona and Talladega, a total of 4 1-2 finishes between them.
Well, we know in that 2001 Daytona 500, our first NASCAR on Fox broadcast, Michael Waltrip won the 500. Dale Earnhardt Jr. finished 2nd.
So who will have to pit and when? That becomes the big question right now.
Yeah, the pack's catching up with Hamlin and the 9 car there, but they're gaining about 3/4 of a second a lap on those guys as they chase them back down.
Now that would not have happened a year ago because the 2-car tandem, the 2-driver tandem, was faster than the pack. But the rules package has changed in an effort not to prevent tandem racing, but let's say create a disincentive for it.
Yeah, and they've had to make the switch a couple of times. That slows them down at least another second. So they're sitting out there, like I said, hoping for a caution.
10 laps to go.
You know, Michael Waltrip in that 40, he has latched on to this group that's in single file right now. And slowly but surely, Michael McDowell in the 98, Trevor Bayne in the 21, they are losing touch with this group.
Yeah, if Bain's going to help McDowell, he better get up there and start doing it pretty quick. But I tell you, that's a sharp kid in that 21. He knows how to run this racetrack. I really am impressed with his drafting skills and how he thinks.
Well, the only other car trying to race in, there's one car coming to pit road, and
Michael's on pit road.
Down to pit road speed. Matt, what's up?
And he's one of those first cars to hit pit road to come in and top off, just needing a few seconds of fuel. They clean off the grill, and he is away for the 2-time winner of the 500.
Boy, he really needed somebody to stop with him, but I guess that's where you find out where your friends are, right there, among those who need fuel and those who don't. 9 to go.
Well, if he gets some other drivers in that lead pack that peel off here shortly, they should come together once they've left pit road.
As much as you want to help somebody, you just can't jeopardize your own finish trying to work with somebody. Even though, you know, for Michael, it's a life or death. He gets in or he doesn't. But he just can't take the chance.
That's right. He has to finish the race to make it in. So that puts McDowell and Bain.
Oh, Michael spun on the back.
And
Michael crashed down the back. Oh my gosh, what happened?
The caution is out.
With 8 laps to go.
That's a huge break for all of these drivers that needed fuel. A huge break for Denny Hamlin and Marcus Ambrose especially.
You know, I wonder if Michael cut a tire down or something after coming out of the pits.
He only took on fuel. He didn't change tires.
Yeah, he didn't change tires, or he picked up debris or something. Let's see if we can figure out what happened here. He's down on the apron.
Keep taking their pack just out near the pit road.
When he came up on the racetrack, the thing just jumped around with him.
Darrell, did it look like maybe, again, we know he's desperate. He's trying to get back up to speed. Did he jump up on the apron too quick?
Well, I don't know about too quick, but that transition from the apron up on the racetrack, we know that's hard. I mean, that's hard to do. Just with picking up debris on his hot tires, he didn't change tires. The car just spun out.
Michael getting ready to climb out, telling the crew he is okay. Heartbroken, perhaps, but okay. Matt?
He told the team on the radio, Mike, that he was just trying to get up to speed as quickly as he could. He didn't want to get a penalty by NASCAR by going up above the 2 yellow lines too quickly. And he apologized. He felt bad, he said.
NASCAR requires you to drive around the apron through turns 1 and 2 and then blend in at the exit of turn 2 back up onto the racetrack.
I really think, Mike, part of the problem was, and I know Michael is just, I mean, he is so sorry, so bad, feels bad about what happened, but I think it was the debris that he would pick up on those hot tires, the rubber and the dirt and everything, and then when he gassed it to get up on the racetrack, the thing just spun around.
And from on board.
And that's probably down about where there is no safer barrier. And you can see what an impact that was and how he's snapped forward in the car.
And in addition to the cost of the damage, that's about a $240,000 hit for Michael Waltrip. That's the difference between starting this race and starting Sunday.
And what's going to be about a 5-lap shootout. We now only have 3 of our go or go home drivers on the racetrack: McDowell, Bain, and Robbie Gordon.
Pit stops for those who need it. Ricky Stenhouse leads them down. Here's Dick.
After a very long debate, Trevor Bain will pit for 3 seconds worth of fuel, and that's it.
Matt. And McMurray needs only a few seconds fuel as well. Fuel only for him. He's away. Dale Earnhardt Jr. he topped off. Danica Patrick, 3 seconds of fuel for the 10 car.
Jeff Burton wins that race off pit road. And Dale Jr. gains a bunch of spots as we're under caution. 6 to go. 5 laps to go. We're under caution for Michael Waltrip's crash in the backstretch as he was trying to blend back up onto the racetrack after a pit stop. The car got away from him, went into the wall, and out of the race. Tony Stewart, your leader, Kevin Harvick, Carl Edwards, Jeff Burton, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Almirola, McMurray, Allmendinger, Keselowski, and Stenhouse. And right now, the race in positions are Trevor Bain and Michael McDowell. Robbie Gordon still with a chance to race his way into the 500.
Every race we cover has a wow moment in it. Ours is getting ready to happen.
One thing we need to clear up, just before that caution came out, the leaders, they had overtaken Denny Hamlin and Marcus Ambrose, put them a lap down. Marcus was in front of Denny Hamlin. Marcus Ambrose back on the lead lap by virtue of the free pass. Denny Hamlin 1 down.
So there's Ambrose at the tail end of the pack, and you see the 98, the black car of McDowell, and the black number 7 with that lightning type look on the front. That is Robbie Gordon. And those two, along with 21 Trevor Bain, trying to race their way in the final 4 laps of this race. Green flag back in the air. Tony Stewart tries to take off from Kevin Harvick and Jeff Burton.
There'll be some slicing and dicing here once we get up to speed.
Stewart, Harvick, and Edwards on the bottom. Trying to eke away, and that's not going to happen. Here comes Burton in the outside lane.
Getting a good push there from Allmendinger in a 22 car, pushing him right up there to the lead. Pushing, pushing, pushing.
That was the highlight to Jeff Burton's 2011. He won the dual race here a year ago at Daytona.
Three wide as one car breaks out to the outside. That is Eric Almirola with Ricky Stenhouse.
He jumped out there. I thought he was going to be by himself, but all of a sudden a bunch of friends jumped up there behind him.
Yeah, that's the young guns up on the outside. They're high, they're rim riding, baby.
3 laps to go, Steve.
Pretty big gamble for Kevin Harvick. As I said, Mike, close on fuel. Shane Wilson, the new crew chief, wanted to bring him down. Kevin convinced him that he'd saved enough gas. Let's see if it works.
Jamie McMurray got knocked out of line and comes back up on the racetrack. Still side by side with Burton.
But you said it right. He got knocked down there.
Yeah, he didn't. His car doesn't look all that stable, even once he gets back up in line.
They come to the stripe, 2 to go. There's another look. Watch the one of McMurray. That was off Burton's front bumper. But he hung on to it.
And there goes Junior, and Junior just pushed Carl Edwards and he to the lead, but then he dropped in. He got by Carl Edwards in the 99. I think he was hoping to pick up Tony Stewart in the 14, but Carl closed the door. Now here comes the 14 and Stewart up the outside.
Fast freight in the outside track. Tony Stewart, Kevin Harvick, Jamie McMurray. On the outside, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Carl Edwards on the inside. White flag this time by.
That McMurray car was good here in the Bud Shootout the other night. He's right up there again today.
They'll be getting the white flag. A lot of drivers a little unsure. Can they make it the distance?
Burton slices top to bottom, passes 3 cars and lines up third for this final lap.
Tony Stewart sitting out there right now. That is not a good place to be. He's a setting duck. They're going to come by him like he put on the brakes.
Yeah, watch the run these drivers get that are lined up. Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. right there in the 88. Watch Burton.
Here we go. Here we go.
Oh, hard in the wall. And she's all right after a hard crash, and the caution flag is out.
The race is over. That's Tony Stewart will win the race. We got that camera in there with Danica and see she's fine.
Checkered flag. Tony Stewart leads Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Marcus Ambrose across the line. But they got stacked 4 wide coming out of turn number 2. Danica was on the inside, and when all that contact was made, she was the one that ended up going for the wild ride.
And she done such a nice job. I mean, we've been watching her, keeping her nose clean. That's a very unfortunate event. See if we can see exactly what happened here as
all
we
right,
look
she's
down
at the back of the pack in the inside, and they're 4 wide across here, just about, as Allmendinger leads them way up the high side. Where is the contact?
Somebody's going to come down into her, I think.
Almirola.
Yeah, right there. He got on the bumper of it. Looked like McMurray's car, the one, turned him a little bit to the left. Thank God for safer barriers.
That was a hard lick. It's almost that car didn't even look like it slowed down as it was going across there.
I'm so glad that all these racetracks have put safer barriers where we never had them before, and here's a perfect example of why we need them everywhere.
So Danica Patrick is okay after this.
Bottom. There you go. Keep digging. 3 wide.
Goodness gracious. Let's go on board.
Bottom. There you go. Keep digging. 3 wide.
Is that not? Did you see what she did with her hands?
Yeah, all that open wheel experience.
IndyCar, all that open wheel experience. She knew not to hold on to that steering wheel. That is amazing. I saw her do that here in the ARCA race a couple years ago.
I mean, if you hold on to the wheel there, you can break a wrist easily.
Yeah, but
when that wheel wrenches your hands.
Do you just have any idea when you're headed for that wall that fast that you got the time to think about letting go and putting your hands up like that?
is our touch of gray moment at race's end. The final caution. Watch the orange number 1 of Jamie McMurray edge down the track into Eric Almirola.
Right in there.
Who heads right into Danica Patrick.
Look how light that car gets in the back as it skips across there. That's how fast that thing was going.
You could see how much that safer barrier wall moved, and that's the good thing.
Watch this thing skipping across there. Bam! Folks, that's at 180 miles an hour.
It didn't lose a lot of speed going across there at all.
Down to victory lane, Gatorade victory lane, Steve Burns.
Mike, Tony Stewart just got unbuckled. Hans device off and helmet off. Well, Tony, didn't take you long to get your first win with your new crew chief, Steve Addington. But I'm curious, how bittersweet is it? Danica took a big shot down on the backstretch for you to pull into victory lane, but to see her go through that.
We don't ever want to see us lose a car, and the good thing she's in the 500 still. That's the main thing. But we took care of business today with this Office Depot Mobile 1 Chevy, and had an awesome partner there with Kevin Harvick there. I thought I could get him pulled through there, but we both had a good run there, and he took real good care of us. We couldn't have done that without Kevin.
I'm curious how close you were on gas. I was asking guys in the pits, and they're like, what?
I think we were all right. I mean, we almost saved a full lap when the caution came out there at the end, so I don't think we were that close, really. I think we were going to be all right as long as we didn't get a green-white checkered.
Congratulations on the win, Tony. Let's go to Matt Yoakum.
And catching up with another driver who has raced his way into Daytona 500, Robbie Gordon. Early on, smoke from the car. Can you describe just how big of a turnaround this is for you and your team?
Well, the motor's been running hot the whole time, and we were a little concerned about the oil, so I couldn't even run in a pack more than 10 or 15 laps. So gonna have to do everything I can to work a deal with Penske to see if we can get a Penske motor for the 500. But this is the same car that we led Talladega with, and once we get in the pack, we're fine. The car's good. So I'm happy to make the Daytona 500, happy for Mapei, happy for Menards, obviously happy for Speed Energy, and not only that, all my guys that just bust their butts week in and week out to get us here.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mike?
Thanks, Matt. Robbie used the first caution flag. He pitted and got rid of that tire rub and went on to make the 500.
Looking at Tony Stewart, that is his 17th career win at Daytona International Speedway. Everything he's ever driven here, but still looking for that first Daytona 500 win.
What I like is he was willing to make changes in the offseason. Everybody said, why? Hello.
Danica Patrick checked and released from the infield care center. Let's meet the other man who's just transferred into the 500. Matt?
An impressive performance by Michael McDowell. Can you describe how nervous you were and also the relief? You are in the Great American Race.
Yeah, first and foremost, just want to thank Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, because you know, we didn't have speed in Sunday to get in, and you know, to get this K-Love Radio curve records. I want to thank Mike Curb and Kerry Akajani and drive the 98 for Phil Parsons, and to have this Ford Doug Yates Roush power pan underneath the hood, I just can't say enough. And all my friends, man, I just can't.
You had some help from the 21, your buddy.
Yeah, I owe him big. You know, there's something special on there that we can't break, and so it's just cool to see when we can work together what you can accomplish for the glory of God.
McDrivers in the Daytona 500.
Danica Patrick has emerged from the care center. It looked like a vicious hit. What was it like from behind the steering wheel?
Happened really quick. I guess you can always imagine that when it gets down to the end of the race, everybody's, you know, everyone's on each other's doors really close, and that's just kind of what happens at the end of the race. So unfortunately, I was part of it. So I felt like I was having at least a solid race. You know, I worked my way up there at the beginning a little bit and hung around in the front group for a while. I don't know, it felt like it kind of slowed down. I was dragging the brake a little, quite a bit, just to keep with the pack and not outrun, like not run up to him too quickly. So I don't know if that had any effect, but yeah, I mean, we were just looking to finish, to be honest. So unfortunately, that was not the case, and it was, I don't know, it felt pretty big, so I don't know what it looked like.
Before the crash, did you feel comfortable racing in the pack?
Yeah, no, I felt good. I felt comfortable, and it was just a matter of getting into the right line with the right people and in the fast lane. And it's like it was like hard to get past that sort of mid-pack range. I felt like if I could have gotten up there, it would have been better. But you know, of course it would be. Going up front is always better, but you know, I feel I'm just bummed out. You know, it's like, you know, 2 corners to go and the GoDaddy car's in a ball. So maybe the backup car will be faster.
There you go.
There we go.
Danica will start in the back of the Daytona 500 on Sunday.
Good bit of optimism there. Patrick finishes 16th. Here are our Napa race results. Tony Stewart gets his 3rd dual win, 13th Speed Weeks win, tying Darrell for 2nd on the all-time list. Junior, Ambrose, Edwards, Burton the top 5. McDowell races in. Harvick, Allmendinger, Robbie Gordon races in, and McMurray. Stenhouse in 11th. Bain, they're in the race. Keselowski, Reagan, Almirola, Patrick in 16th. Hamlin ends up a lap down. Michael Waltrip misses. David Stremme falls back on his speed. Terry Labonte champions provisional. So here's who's locked into the 500. Now Labonte still could end up with his speed getting him in, opening up the provisional spot for Bill Elliott. But we do know that these 5 drivers now know they will be in the Daytona 500. The lineup getting ready for race 2. Ouch.
The race for a driver locked in is one of cautious aggression. Learn enough for the 500, but don't tear up your race car. Tony Stewart, already a winner. He won dual race number 1. The race for a driver on the outside, a race within his own mind. When should I make my move? 24 drivers have been patiently waiting for their turn. Drivers like Elliott Sadler and 5-time series champion Jimmy Johnson. Their Gatorade Duel race starts right now. We return downstairs trackside for the 2nd race command.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back lead category manager for Harris Teeter, Steve Kravitz, as he delivers the most famous words in motorsports.
Drivers, start your engines.
Different agendas and priorities to learn, protect, win, survive. What did we learn from race number 1 and what will unfold in race number 2? Let's head upstairs and get the thoughts of Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, and Darrell Waltrip.
Well, thanks, Krista. Traditionally, if the first race is a wild one, the second one, things calm down. If the first race is relatively tame, the second duel gets really wild. Darrell, have we seen the wild one yet?
I don't know. I think it's second verse, same as the first, to tell you the truth. I think the agenda is the same for everybody in this race. Guys that are in, let's gather information. Let's work on our fuel mileage, because that was a factor in the first one. Let's stay out of trouble and bring this thing home so we can tweak on it a little bit more for the 500. Let's don't come in on a rollback. That isn't going to do any of us any good.
Larry, going into race 1, the drivers who were not yet in the 500 had a lot of different possibilities. Some had, like Terry Labonte, had as many as 3 different ways to make the race. But now that picture becomes a lot clearer for the drivers trying to race in race 2.
Yeah, there's not a lot of what if. The what if is go up there and do exactly what Michael McDowell and Robbie Gordon did in that first dual race, get toward the front. But the one thing that I did learn from that first dual race, now that it's in the book, is the fact you probably don't want to pass up an opportunity to come to pit road early and at least get fuel. Denny Hamlin, the 11 car, led almost half of that first dual race. Because they stayed out, they were forced to make a green flag pit stop and finish way back in the pack.
And Robbie Gordon said never give up, and ended up in the Daytona 500 when early in the race it looked like he might not make it. Ready to race in Daytona in just a minute. Race 2 of the Gatorade Duel at Daytona set to go here at Daytona International Speedway, live on Speed. And for the second time, Greg Biffle will lead them to the flag, as he did in 2004 when he won the pole. Here's your Gatorade starting grid. Biffle and Casey Mears in Fords on the front row. Jeff Gordon, 5 wins in the duels, with Martin Truex in row number 2, a Chevy and a Toyota. Mark Martin will be in his 28th Daytona 500, and Jimmy Johnson, a dual winner in 2010. Matt Kenseth in a Ford, Ryan Newman in a Chevrolet, both past 500 champs. Joey Logano's Toyota, and Casey Kane, who got a dual win 2 years ago. Tony Rames in a Ford, Kyle Busch in a Toyota, who won his duel in 2009. Kenny Wallace trying to race his way in, as is Dave Blaney. They share the 7th row. Kurt Busch, a dual winner last year, and Elliott Sadler has won twice on Thursday of Speed Week. Row 9, Joe Nemechek trying to race in, and Regan Smith, the Darlington winner last year. Bobby Labonte, dual winner in '99, and Bill Elliott, who's won the dual 4 times, he has to race in. David Rudiman is in the show Sunday. Robert Richardson Jr. trying to race his Toyota into the 500, as is J.J. Yaley in a Toyota, and Clint Boyer, due to a height infraction in qualifying, will start his Toyota last. Saturday night, a performance that certainly made my plays of the week. Kyle Busch. Lose it, catch it, lose it, catch it. Throw it away, bring it back, and then bring it all the way to victory lane after truly a wild night.
You know, Mike, first time lucky, second time really good. Let's see if we can get that young man on our radio here. Kyle Busch, DW Speed Booth, buddy. Got a copy?
Yeah, man, right here. What's up, DW?
Man, we just watched some of your handiwork from Saturday night. What do you think might happen out here today?
I hope we don't need too much left of that. That was certainly for entertainment purposes only. We're here to race today, so hopefully we can keep this M&M Camry in one piece and have a good solid Daytona duel. We'd like to win the thing, sure, but we also know where the bigger prize lies, and that's keeping this race car for Sunday.
So we can expect you to be a little conservative today, right?
Well, I wouldn't say anything wasn't conservative on Saturday night either. It just kind of turned into being a wild one. You know, a lot of guys going for everything it was worth, and no points on the line, and a special race car for that race. So today it was a little bit tamer, it seemed like, in the first duel, and hoping for something more of the same here right now.
10-4, bud. You're the man. Put on a show.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
He'll be coming from 10th place on the starting grid. Let's get down to pit road for late breaking stories. Dick Berggren.
Jimmy Johnson has had to start these 150s from the back in 3 of the last 4 years. Engine changes, backup cars. Today he will start 6th, despite some issues that he had in technical inspection. The strategy is simple. Go to the front and win this thing. Steve Burns.
Casey Kane's been waiting patiently, Dick, 18 months to drive for Hendrick Motorsports. He's off to a bit of a rough start. He had some cleanup meniscus surgery on his left knee before he came down here. Yesterday in second practice, tore up his race car. Kenny Francis said they've gone to the backup car, which they really don't know that much about. Mark Martin drove it some last year, but this race is really just to get their feet wet with this race car. Matt?
Steve, what a year it's been for Regan Smith. A year ago, he finished 7th in the Daytona 500, won Darlington, and then got married in the offseason. Enters this season with more confidence going into his season than he ever has had before. Very fast race car, starts mid-pack. He told me he learned a lot from the duel number 1 that he'll use on Sunday in the 500. The biggest thing he wants to work on during this duel is just timing. See how the packs form and how late they form and when you have to try to make your move. Mike?
Thanks, Matt. Let's, as Larry said, the picture now becomes clearer for the go or go home drivers in this second duel. Tony Raines starts his number 26 Ford in 11th. Now Raines is in the 500 on speed. He can get a better starting spot by racing in. But remember, Front Row Motorsports has already wrecked 1 car, and that takes away 1 of their only 2 backups. So Raines will start 11th. Dave Blaney in the 36. Has to race his way in. All of the speed spots above him are taken. Joe Nemechek, Kenny Wallace that is. Kenny Wallace could get in on speed if Tony Raines races in. Otherwise, Wallace has to be one of the first 2 in this group to finish. Joe Nemechek must race in. No speed spot available for him. Alongside him there, Robert Richardson, who also must race into the show. No speed spot for him. Now Bill Elliott is in the 97. And curiously, if Raines and Wallace race in, Labonte's in on speed. And Elliott could get the past champions provisional. Otherwise, he and J.J. Yaley in the 49 have to race their way into the 500.
Looks like to me, Tony Raines, he does not want to jeopardize this race car for the Daytona 500. He has dropped to the rear of this field as well.
like race number 1, will go 60 laps, 150 miles, and a pit stop, which it looked, Larry, like in race 1, maybe some drivers made that initial stop too soon and had to rethink it?
Well, I still don't think you pass up an opportunity, because several of those drivers, like Kevin Harvick, Jeff Burton, they did come back in at the tail end of that caution and topped off. It's hard to pass up an opportunity in this short of a race to get that thing full of fuel under caution.
Warm and partly cloudy here in Daytona Beach, with a pretty good strong breeze today. 15 to 20 mile per hour sustained winds coming up from Orlando, and that's about as windy as it's been all week here. 84 degrees as we get ready to race. Greg Biffle, second front row start in the 500. Will bring them down for the dual race for the second time. He and Casey Mears. Green flag, 60 laps. Looks a lot like a pace lap, but they're building speed toward 190 miles plus per hour.
I think I'm going to see tandem racing. We'll see a little bit more of it in this race, because there are a lot of teammates in this race that may want to elect to work together just for a little experiment for Sunday.
They are not bashful. They are 3 wide, 4 deep coming through turn 4 to complete lap 1.
Biffle and Mears leading Martin Truex, Jimmy Johnson, and Jeff Gordon, Ryan Newman, Matt Kenseth, and Kyle Busch.
You know, Larry, if you're gonna race, you got to make up your mind. I'm going to race. I'm going to run as hard as I can go, and whatever happens, happens. If you're not going to race, do like Tony Raines did. Fall to the back.
Now again at the top, look at Dave Blaney and Kenny Wallace. Their positions are in green. That means right now they're in those 2 transfer spots. The drivers trying to race their way in will be shown with their positions in red, beginning with J.J. Yeley in 17.
You know, right now, all of those scenarios that you read off at the beginning of this race, no driver is thinking about any of that. And what will happen as he gets down there at the end, a crew chief will start explaining that to his driver, and finally the driver will say, maybe if I just pass everybody, we'll be okay.
Right. Run hard. Get what you can get.
Just get what I can.
You know, as I see Jimmy Johnson in that 48 car on the outside, Darrell, we watched him in the 2 practice sessions yesterday with his car. This is the first time he's been in the draft. All of their runs, even yesterday, was single car runs, just A, B, and changes.
Dave Blaney in 10th, Kenny Wallace in 16th of the transfer spots right now.
Boy, it looked like Matt Kenseth up in that yellow car coming off 4 there. He had to check up a little bit, and that backed that outside lineup big time. Getting a nice push back to the front with Jimmy Johnson right there in the 48 on the 17 of Kenseth. Looked like they got a lot of steam going off into 1. You just got to stay to the right of that rear bump, man. You just got to stay over on that right side. The left side on these cars is so sensitive. You can spin out on the straightaway.
Excuse me. Logano went to the top. Ryan Newman behind him went to the bottom.
You know, as I look at Casey Mears in that 13 car, you think about he and his race team. That's a team that missed the 500 last year. They worked hard during the season, got in the top 35, made the swap to Ford. They come to Daytona for Speed Weeks, qualify 5th, still up there at the front.
Yeah, he and his crew chief, Booty Barker, I think they have a lot to prove. I think they want to prove they're a good race team. They've obviously got a great race car down here. I'm pretty sure they're going to run as hard as they can.
Kenseth and Johnson forged to the front and now drop to the inside lane. They are out front. Dick Bergeron.
Kenny Wallace has just radioed his crew and said he is wide open and can't keep up.
Wallace is 17. Blaney and Nemechek in the 87 are in the transfer spots. That's Wallace in that silver and green 09.
But I think we still have to stress a long race, long way to go. You still got to make a pit stop, just like Robbie Gordon in that first race. Right. Don't give it up.
You don't count anybody out right now except J.J. Yaley is in trouble.
Yeah, he's
down on the apron.
He's coasting. His engine's obviously off and got a problem.
The second generation sprint car driver from Phoenix. Had some strong runs last season in the Sprint Cup Series.
But Mike, that's Kenny Wallace at the back of this pack. Sometimes when you're right there, you're kind of in a hole almost. I bet if he gets that car up in there amongst other cars, he'd be surprised how good he can run.
Seeing a couple of the Joe Gibbs drivers, Joey Logano in the 20, Kyle Busch in the 18. We talked to him on the pace laps, starting to work the high line.
6 laps complete. Kenseth remains the race leader from Johnson and Biffle.
These guys are like any athlete. They'll say, yeah, I'm going to take it easy. I'm not going to take any chances. That's for about 5 laps. And then that's all out the window, and it's who can beat who.
These early laps look like more pack racing, less bump drafting than we saw in the first 7 laps of race 1.
Yeah, we saw Jimmy Johnson and Matt Kenseth do some bump drafting to get to the front, but now as we're riding with Jimmy Johnson, it's just your conventional draft.
I think that's one of the things, Larry, these guys are really working on. Trail braking, riding the brake a little bit to stay off the guy in front of them, especially that left rear, and then playing with this fuel injection with the throttle and figuring out if, you know, when I ease out the throttle and get back in it, do I have, what kind of response am I getting? I think there's a lot of things that these drivers are really working through in these qualifying races.
That yellow car top of the screen in the outside lane, Dave Blaney. Blaney made it into the top 35 in owner points at the end of 2011, but his team owner Tommy Baldwin made a deal with Stuart Haas to assign those points and that so-called golden ticket that gets you into the first 5 races to Danica Patrick's team. So here's Blaney having to prove himself once again and race his way into the 500. And so far these first 7 laps, he has been the first car not yet qualified in the running order, currently 8th.
But he has a friend, Elliott Sadler, in that 33 car. That's the only Richard Childress racing car in this race. But Dave Blaney, Tommy Baldwin, in the 36 car, they get their cars, their engines from Richard Childress.
Blaney was hired last year, Mike, to get that car in the top 35. That's what he was hired to do. He did. This year, he's hired to get it back in the top 35.
Now Sadler's locked in, so too Regan Smith. A little puff from Regan's car from the overflow from the cooling system that exits up onto the right side of the windshield there. Just a little bit.
Listen, it's hot out there. It's 84 degrees.
Blaney in 9th, Nemechek in 14th. Driving his own car with little sponsorship and a small crew. Joe Nemechek is once again trying to race his way into the Daytona 500. Tomorrow, the trucks tote the load under the lights in Daytona. The NASCAR Camping World Truck Series kicks off its season with what is traditionally the wildest race of speed weeks. And with what we've seen so far, that's going to have to be pretty wild. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, live on Speed.
Well, Larry, he did it. Kyle pushed Joey right to the lead, and then he got right off of him, probably to cool the engine down a little bit.
Yeah, it took them several laps. They just kept inching their way up there.
13 laps complete. Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, 2 Toyotas out front of Matt Kenseth's Ford, and the Chevrolets of Jimmy Johnson, Dave Blaney, and Elliott Sadler.
The thing about the Toyotas is kind of interesting. It didn't qualify that good, but when we were down here testing, they were bad fast in draft practice. We saw that Saturday night with Kyle in the Bud shootout. Even with a car that wasn't in the best of shape, he's still able to win that race. Here they're pushed each other right to the lead.
Starting to see the same thing for him in the second lane right now with Dave Blaney in the 36. We talked about he and Elliott Sadler. They're working their way to the front.
2 more cars have gone to the garage. David Rudiman, who is locked into the 500 on owner points, and Tony Raines, who was the 2nd fastest car not yet qualified on the speed chart Sunday in qualifying. So that means all 3 of those fastest cars, Baines, Raines, and Stremme, get into the race on their speed. It means now Kenny Wallace's only option is to race in, along with Blaney, Nemechek, Richardson, and Yaley is out of the race.
As we watch these 2 cars, Blaney and Sadler there, you see how far to the right you have to get any air in the radiator now. NASCAR moved that opening where that you got to get that car way out there. That's what hurts the two-car tandem as much as anything. You got to get so far to the right, you can't pick up max speed.
Mike, you mentioned Kenny Wallace, and Darrell has pointed out several times that as long as you can find speed in your race car regardless, Kenny Wallace is the only driver so far to run over 200 miles an hour in this race.
You're riding with Wallace. He's at 16th. And Elliott Sadler in the 33, did he get against the wall when he went way high in turn 1?
Oh, I think it was a combination of things. Blaney in front of him and Gordon right under him, and it got him loose and shot him up the hill. That's a product of this lower spoiler that we got down here this year. Cars get in the right spot, it makes them wicked loose.
Blaney drops to 6th, having lost his wingman, but still has a pretty good cushion on Joe Nemechek in 14th. They're in the transfer spots. Kenny Wallace 2 spots away, and Bill Elliott in 20th. Richardson 21st.
We've reached the point of this race now, Mike. Should we get a caution, all the drivers would come to pit road and there would be no issues on making it to the end. We've crossed that window now.
Matt Kenseth giving a boost to Kyle Busch. Steve?
Mike, an update on Ryan Newman in the 39. His teammate Tony Stewart won the first race. On the other hand, Ryan says, there's nothing I can do. I'm wide open, but I can't go anywhere. This is frustrating.
I'll tell you what's frustrating is that Joe Logano is doing a good job of keeping Kyle Busch and Matt Kenseth behind him, but they're getting a little bit impatient. I think they're going to be able to make a pass here.
Here they go to the outside. Busch, Kenseth, and Jimmy Johnson, then Blaney to the outside, leaving Logano on the bottom. Now Logano's going to get a little help from behind. Midway in the backstretch from Biffle in the 16. And Martin Truex in the 56. Mark Martin, Truex's teammate, in the 55.
Both those drivers, they've been fast the entire speed weeks. Martin Truex and Mark Martin driving for Michael Waltrip Racing.
I think two guys that like to get hooked up if they could is Jimmy Johnson, 48 there in the 3rd car back, and Jeff Gordon right behind Blaney in the 24 car. If they could get together, they might be able to work together and get to the front.
18 laps down, Blaney in 5th. Nemechek and Kenny Wallace fight side by side for the bubble spot.
And we talked about Casey Kane at the top of the show. In that backup car, said they didn't know a whole lot about this car, started at the tail of the field. He's about to crack the top 10. We're riding here in the Farmers Insurance Chevrolet. He's just back there in 11th.
Yeah, Larry, every car, even though they're built alike, every one of them have a little different personality. Takes you a few laps to get comfortable in the car, kind of know what it's going to, how it's going to steer, how it's going to drive. I think that's what Casey was doing, getting comfortable in the car before he makes a move. And we see here Kurt Busch in the HendrickCars.com Chevrolet. He's doing a good job of hanging in there right now too in James Finch's car.
He was puffing a little bit of water out the overflow there, and Busch currently is 16th. Kenny Wallace trying to work Joe Nemechek there, 13th and 14th overall, but only have eyes for each other because the bubble is Nemechek and Kenny is 1 spot away.
I love what Kenny Wallace has done this speed weeks. Of course, he's running the NNS race. He's trying to qualify for the 500, but he's been running dirt races every night and winning. He said, I'd rather be doing that than sitting in my motorhome thinking about trying to make this 500.
Yeah, it's pretty nerve-wracking, I can tell you.
When he's not doing that, he's got a microphone in his hand. Blaney and Nemechek in. Wallace, Bill Elliott, and Richardson on the outside looking in. 40 laps to go in the 2nd race of the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. They've been riding around at 190 plus miles an hour until 1 lap ago when teammates Greg Biffle and Matt Kenseth hooked up, drove to the front, and Biffle cut down to the low side, and it was see you later Matt. Biffle is the leader, and Kenseth is relegated to leader of the outside lane some distance back.
Yes, all those bleep, bleep, bleeps you heard, that was Matt Kenseth talking about his teammate, I'm pretty sure.
2 of the Hendrick Chevrolet drivers have found each other, Casey Kane and Jeff Gordon in 11th and 12th places. Steve?
And Mike, the news not especially good for Jeff Gordon. He's telling his team, Alan Gustafson, the crew chief, I just can't push anyone because the car is running way too hot.
I just think the practice conditions that we had and what we've got today, we talked about it, well over 80 degrees. It's caught a lot of these drivers off guard.
Yeah, it's pretty hot out there. And then I wonder what was wrong with Jeff, because it's not unusual to see him ride around about mid-pack or right about where he is now. You know, remember in the Bud shootout, can't drive the car. The shocks are no good. The car won't stay water.
Our buddy Kenny Wallace in that 09, right now he's riding behind Casey Mears in the 13, but they are losing touch with the lead pack. You can see the distance, and it's growing as it's almost a half of a straightaway there.
Well, that's one thing about, you know, Kenny said, I can barely keep up. If you make one bad move, one mistake, and you lose that pack, that's what will happen to you.
They have fallen 3.5 seconds behind the leaders. Mears is in the race. Wallace is 1 spot away. Blaney in 11th, Nemechek in 15th. Are the 2 transfer cars right now, as Kyle Busch with his Joe Gibbs Toyota teammate Joey Logano come back to the front.
Boy, this 23 car, they're going to catch him in exactly the wrong place. Somebody's going to have to give a little bit here.
Richardson stays low. He's also trying to race his way into the 500, and he'll go 1 lap down. But remember, the free pass rule is in effect should the caution come out. The first car 1 lap down would be moved back onto the lead lap before the restart.
Our top 15 drivers, you can see them there. They're 2 by 2 all the way back in less than 3/4 of a second of each other.
What I'm seeing in this race versus the first one, though, is that gap. Everybody's maintaining they're minding the gap, Larry. And they're just kind of maintaining that and not running over each other.
Well, but I think one reason they're having to do that, Darrell, we've already documented several of these drivers running a little warm on water temperature.
And remember what Dale Earnhardt Jr. said after the first dual race. He said, I can't do anything down the front straightaway because of the headwind. Can't push anybody, hard to make a move. Tailwind up the backstretch, headwind down the front straightaway. Matt?
And Larry Mack, to further add what you were talking about, that's exactly the issue for the 20 car, Joey Logano, and the 56 of Martin Truex Jr., both running extremely hot. Logano about 230 to 250. The same thing for the 56 of Martin Truex. He's about 240, and he's pushing water again. That's why he's trying to duck out a little bit and try to get as much cool air as possible.
And Darrell, I think this is something NASCAR will have to look at before Sunday, because the way the rules package are, there's not anything they can even do on a pit stop. You have to run that opening that they have.
And Kenny Wallace sees his chances to make the Daytona 500 getting smaller out his windshield as he's lost the draft, and he has lost. Casey Mears has moved ahead of him, trying to catch the front pack. Steve?
Mike, add Kurt Busch to the list of those concerned about water temperature. He's said for the last 9 laps he's up around 280 degrees.
Whoa, you can't be there, buddy. 230 is a kind of okay. Anything above that and you're starting to get in trouble. You lose power, you're going to hurt the engine.
The first dual race had a caution at lap 9 that allowed things to cool just a bit, but we've been green flagged from the start here for 29 laps, halfway next time by. Greg Biffle, Jimmy Johnson, Regan Smith up for 3rd, and Elliott Sadler has rebounded for 4th ahead of Kyle Busch, Casey Kane, and Joey Logano.
Yeah, Mike, you literally, when you fall back, you just kind of pick your way back to the front. You just get one on the inside, one on the outside, get a push, and first thing you know, you're right back where Elliott is after falling all the way to the back.
Dave Blaney in 12th, Joe Nemechek in 15th are the transfer cars right now. And Kenny Wallace has fallen 14 seconds behind. He and Bill Elliott, Robert Richardson Jr. still trying to make the race. Dick?
Kenny Wallace has just told the crew that the engine feels as if it is seizing up.
Well, that's just a shame. That deal came together so late. It's his NNS team that he races with full time, and just getting slower and slower.
Let's listen, Larry, see if we can hear anything.
Last lap for Wallace was 49.86. That's 4 seconds off the leader's pace.
I will say this. When you're not up there in that lead pack and you're running alone like he is right now, sometimes that engine does feel like it's about to quit.
but Wallace has to stay out there as long as he can. That's his only shot to make the 500.
Oh, yeah, until he gets lapped, until I want a lap down, I'd ride until they at least come around to lap me. And then I got a lap down, I might do something different.
Biffle and Johnson leading. Biffle's owner, Jack Roush, has never won a Gatorade Duel race at Daytona in 24 years of trying. Sunday, get ready for the Daytona 500 with America's most comprehensive pre-race show. NASCAR race day. Pole sitter Carl Edwards, Sprint Cup champ Tony Stewart, newcomer Danica Patrick, and more on NASCAR race day fueled by Sunoco. Live from Daytona, Sunday, 9 a.m. right here on Speed. Greg Biffle leading, 35 laps down of 60. No change among the front four. Casey Kane runs in fifth. Kenny Wallace, trying to get in the race, was caught up by a pack of 3 cars, but he was unable to tack on and stay with them, leading to frustration and desperation.
Run by himself. You got to stay in the pack. We're done now. What do you think? I just wanted him to go by me? That's not what I'm saying, but you got to stay with him. Do the best you can.
Dick Berggren.
Kenny Wallace has determined that the fuel pressure has dropped to 40 pounds, Mike, and that they think is really the problem. It's not that it's blowing up, which they thought it was originally. He just doesn't have enough fuel pressure to the injectors.
Thanks, Dick. One other car may be in trouble. Matt.
My concern in the 78 pit of Regan Smith. About 6 laps ago, he keyed the mic and said, I've got a vibration, which is getting consistently worse. It's changed pitch. I think we may be losing the engine. Remember, he was one of several cars that were running very warm earlier in this duel.
Yeah, once you run so warm and it stays there, you definitely are going to get the engine in trouble. Now, the situation we're getting within about 6 to 8 laps of what's going to be green flag pit stops. You would think that may help these drivers that are running warm. There's still not much you can do. In fact, you hit pit road, they may even start running warmer.
Larry, down here before, I've been down here when the wind is gusting like it is today, and it would play with your mind. The car would buff a little bit. The car would buck up and get air under a little bit. It would mess with the air going in the air box, and you would swear something was wrong with your engine. But really and truly, it's just the wind.
Kenny Wallace coming in, making his fuel stop, hoping to cool that car down just a bit. NASCAR has said pick up your speed. They do have a minimum speed each car must maintain. Dick?
Well, there's not much that they're going to do about that fuel pressure problem, Mike, and that's really what they need to do to fix this thing, although they are working in the trunk in the area of the fuel pump, hoping that they can do something about that. He's pitting all by himself here on pit road. He'll have no partner with which to race.
Yeah, with electronic fuel injection that we're running for the very first time, all of the fuel pumps, the electric fuel pumps, are in the trunk of the car.
Yeah, there are 2 of them, and I guess there's a chance one could go out, and that would affect the pressure.
Pit stops begin. Bill Elliott, Bobby Labonte, and the 15 of Clint Boyer are on pit road.
It's 3 drivers that had well lost the draft, and they decided to hit pit road together. Joe Nemechek in the 87's on pit road.
Deals being made. When will you stop? Well, when do you want to stop? Because you don't want to come off pit road by yourself.
But the other thing, Mike, and Darrell will relate to this, when I'm looking there at about 15 or 16 drivers on the racetrack running in a pack, you almost don't want to be in that group of drivers all coming to pit road at one time.
It can get very interesting. I mean, you've got to really let your spotters got to let everybody know, and you got to get, here come some of them now, Larry, and you got to get that hand up. And these are guys that were at the back of that pack right there, which is a great move.
Boy, they came off in a hurry. Ryan Newman and Kurt Busch may have had trouble getting down to pit road speed before the commitment cone. Jeff Gordon's in. Dave Blaney, Mark Martin, and Martin Truex are all on pit road under green. Steve.
The plan for the 24 of Jeff Gordon, of course, he's been running hot, right side tires and fuel, right sides only.
That was about half of those drivers. I think in the next lap or 2, you'll see the rest of them hit pit road.
And the right side tires completed on the 56 of Truex. He spent the last lap trying to duck that car out to get as cool as possible. His temperature continuing to climb.
Joey Logano comes in this time with his Joe Gibbs teammate. Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth is in, Robert Richardson, all pitting on this lap.
A lot of fuel only.
Dick?
Well, they haven't been exactly happy with the chassis on Matt Kenseth's car. Matt.
And Jason Ratcliffe calling the shots on the 20 car at Joey Logano. Right side tires only, no adjustments. A little bit of trouble on the right front. Steve.
Chassis adjustment for Kyle Busch. Matt said he wanted a little more rear grip. Right sides only for Kyle Busch.
Kurt Busch will receive a pass-through penalty. Too fast on pit road. He'll have to come down pit road at pit road speed as everybody continues under green. Fortunately, he's locked into the 500. And here come the leaders. Greg Biffle, Jimmy Johnson come to the pit lane along with Regan Smith, Casey Kane, and Elliott Sadler. Dick.
Jimmy Johnson on pit road. The plan for the number 48. Fuel only. Matt.
And the 16 of Biffle is already in. Tires coming off, going on, topping him off of fuel. No adjustments. Meanwhile, fuel to the 78 of Smith. Steve.
Casey Kane, right side tires for him. Also a track bar adjustment for Kane. Right sides only.
If you're one of those drivers that went with fuel only, you had enough of the other drivers that did it. You're going to put some distance possibly on those that went with right side tires.
Is that Joe Nemechek that's spitting a bit of water after having made that pit stop? Now he and his teammate Bill Elliott, those are both Nemechek cars.
Got to switch. Better do it fast, man. You can't stand that very long.
Now, obviously, by the new rules, he was not able to tell Bill Elliott that. He had to go through the spotters on top of the grandstand to tell Bill he needed to swap.
No driver-to-driver communication permitted this year.
Last year down here, Larry, when they would be hot like that and you would switch, it would cool the engine off so quickly that that's what really was damaging some of the engines.
17 laps to go. Greg Biffle back to the lead with Regan Smith, Jimmy Johnson, and Elliott Sadler. 14 laps to go after pit stops. A 7-car breakaway at the front of this event with 14 to go, and not among the leaders right now. Kyle Busch, who is back drafting with Joey Logano, trying to catch the lead pack, but not having a good day of it.
Something terribly wrong with the front end of this car, bud. I don't know what it is. I've been scared to drive it the whole race. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out.
Steve?
And Mike, just heard crew chief Dave Rogers say 10-4, we're going to change the motor after this race.
That'll make it drive better. I guess he's waving there. He's got a. Looks like he might have a problem.
And actually, he's losing ground to Joey Logano just in front of him.
Yeah, I think he's got a problem.
He was spitting a little bit of water out the overflow, so maybe trying to get some air there. The teams are allowed one engine change between today's Gatorade Duel and the 500 without penalty. Now, of the go-or-go-home crowd, 2 of them are still on the lead lap. Dave Blaney has been the leader of that pack all this race. He's in 11th place for Tommy Baldwin, and Joe Nemechek driving his own car in 14th. Those are the only 2 trying to race their way in who are still on the lead lap. Dick?
Radios have been in action, Mike. The number 48, Jimmy Johnson, and Elliott Sadler in the 33 are going to try to team up and go tandem at the end of this race to try to win it.
But you know, Mike, one of our themes of the day, talking about Joe Nemechek, he has well lost touch with the lead pack, but we said you needed a friend. Well, right now, as his friend is the other driver's car that he owns, Bill Elliott, who is a lap down. They need to stay exactly like they are right now for 11 more laps.
11 to go. Michael Waltrip joins us from the Hollywood Hotel. And Michael, certainly not the day you wanted, but gave it a great effort, and looks like you've got your seat for the 500. It'll be right there.
Yeah, I'm thankful that I have a plan B, and that's to be with you guys, because it's a lot of fun to watch the races and listen to all that goes into bringing our great sport to the fans. And I'm looking much forward to being a part of that on Sunday. But certainly a tough day today for me and my Aaron's Dream machine.
Looked like the car had the speed that, had you been able to maintain a partnership out there, could have got you into the race.
Yeah, we were plenty fast. I was happy, and just had a miscommunication leaving the pits, and got down on the apron when I was supposed to be on the track, and I guess, part-time competitor, not really understanding all the rules. I just made a mistake. I didn't race here in July. I didn't pit on Saturday night, and I went the wrong way.
Sorry that we won't see you in the 500, but we'll enjoy your expertise throughout the race.
Looking forward to it, guys.
Greg Biffle out front with 10 to go. Regan Smith right there. Jimmy Johnson, Elliott Sadler, Matt Kenseth, the front 5.
I think what Michael was referring to is there's a blend line down there as you leave the pits, and you just have to stay on the bottom of the racetrack. He was on the apron. I think he picked up all that debris on his tires. That probably was a factor in the thing spinning around the way it did.
You know, a classic case of a couple drivers that lost the draft early are right there behind our lead pack. Bobby Labonte in the 47, and we're riding with Clint Boyer in the 15. But you can see ever since those green flag stops, they've been able to stay touch with that lead 5. But they are a lap down. Of course, the caution comes out. Whichever one of these two drivers is in front of the other would get the free pass.
Well, there's a man right there in that car that could have almost won the Daytona 500 down here last year. He was sitting in a really good spot on the last lap coming to get the checker.
Yeah, ended up finishing 4th.
They lap past Kurt Busch, who had to serve that penalty for being too fast exiting the pits on his stop. Busch came back up to speed, but the pack moves past, and he is now 1 lap down. Blaney 11th, Nemechek 14th. Those are the transfer spots, with Robert Richardson a lap down along with Bill Elliott, and Kenny Wallace 3 laps back.
One thing that's interesting, you see these guys are all in line the way they are, but if you happen to look to the outside just for a second, guess what? Somebody fills your spot, buddy, and you're going to slide back. That's what just happened to Elliott Sadler. He looked the outside just for a second. Matt Kenseth shot through the hole.
Seven to go this time by. Greg Biffle trying to deliver Jack Roush and Roush Fenway Racing their first ever win in the Gatorade Duel.
Well, he's been bad fast. I mean, Biffle has he won practice both sessions, qualified on the front row, so he's got a good horse right there.
Jimmy Johnson had been in the top 5, and now you see him backslide in that top groove, pick up the tail end. Elliott Sadler trying to help Johnson come back.
I think Jimmy felt like he needed a pusher. Where he was sitting, he wasn't going to get any help. And I think he felt like if I fall back here and pick up another Chevrolet, maybe they can get up on the outside and come back to the front.
Steve?
Tough day for Ryan Newman, about to come to an end, Mike. His temperature is up to 290 degrees. He said he's pushing water.
It's been an up and down day for Stuart Haas. Tony Stewart in victory lane. Danica Patrick in the wall on the final lap, and now Ryan Newman off pace.
Well, once an engine gets so hot and it starts blowing water out of it, there's not a whole lot. It's pretty much done. You're going to blow so much water out that you'll never cool it back down.
We'll be coming to 5 to go this time. I know Greg Biffle is set out front by leading 35 laps. As you see his owner, Jack Roush, starting his 25th year in Sprint Cup. But I just don't think this party's over just yet, because there's a lot of guys back there in that top 5 that I think they're going to try to do what Kyle Busch did Saturday night, time it just right on Greg Biffle coming to the end.
You're saying things have been too calm and too quiet for too long.
Yes, they have.
And you know what? Sometimes you kind of get lulled to sleep, too. I think maybe Tony Stewart thought that come to the line with Kyle Busch. He'd be happy to run second after all he's been through. I don't think Regan Smith's going to be real happy to run second if he can do something.
Kenseth 3rd ahead of Johnson 4th there. And it's a big gap. It's 8 seconds back to Joey Logano and Kyle Busch. Jeff Gordon just hanging out 6th, 7th, and 8th.
What makes sense to me is if Regan would get out there and Jimmy Johnson could get to the Regan, then you got Biffle and Kenseth, the 2 Fords against the 2 Chevrolets. That could be a real drag race.
Four laps to go. Darrell, when do you want to make that move?
Coming off turn 4, coming to get the checkered flag, looked to me like, based on what I've seen down here lately.
So does that mean that Greg Biffle is the man, the straw that stirs the drink, or is he a sitting duck?
Well, the problem that Regan's going to have, that's the right move down here now. Get out there, get that side draft, and try to beat 16 Biffle to the line. But the thing that's going to mess him up is you got Matt Kenseth that will fill that hole and push Biffle across the line. So Regan is kind of sitting there and like, do I want to try to win this thing or do I want to run second? I guess that's what he's kind of figuring out right now.
He's the one Chevrolet in the middle of that Ford sandwich.
Yeah, he knows what it feels like to run second. He did that to Kurt Busch a year ago in the dual race.
3 laps to go. Matt.
Dick Berger documented the 48 and 33 teams trying to work together where Sadler would push Johnson. Sadler's comment back to his spotter simply was, I can't do it for very long because I just simply cannot keep my car cool enough. It just keeps getting hotter. I try to duck out to keep it cool. No dice.
Yeah, he had trouble right there. He's going to lose contact with Jimmy Johnson, and he's going to fall all the way to the back of this pack. Sadler in the 33. I don't know what happened there, but he fell off in a hurry.
Now the 3 cars that moved up, though, are lap down cars. And that's Boyer, Labonte, and Busch. 2 to go. And again, Biffle brings him across. And here comes Boyer, who is a lap down, trying to spoil his party.
But watch these 2 drivers on the outside. Watch Matt Kenseth in that 17 and Jimmy Johnson in the 48.
Regan Smith aligned on the back bumper of Greg Biffle with 1.5 laps to go.
I think
Blaney in a qualifying spot and Nemechek.
The water's blowing. It doesn't matter now. You're coming to the white flag. You're not even looking at the water temperature gauge.
The engine could be blowing. You don't really care.
You're coming to the front, and that's what matters.
Look at the difference. About 5 miles an hour right there going into turn 3.
Biffle on the bottom. Here comes his teammate Matt Kenseth with help from Jimmy Johnson.
He says,
Biffle slides up, covers the spot, and they go to the inside against him. What a move by Matt Kenseth.
Oh, no, what a bad move by Greg Biffle. He should have never done that. He should have held that bottom.
Uh-oh, the little tea kettle is Jimmy Johnson's.
Yes, it is. And you know what? They may still try to form something there going down the back straightaway, getting through 3 and 4.
Oh, no, it's going to be 48 and 78 now. That's what I figured they were going to do.
Biffle made a bold move. Kenseth made a bolder one.
Whoops.
Regan Smith to the bottom. Contact.
Whoops.
Contact again. And Kurt Busch a lap down on the outside.
But Elliott Sadler is on the lead lap that's pushing Kurt Busch up there.
Something happens at 33, though. He gets a run, he has to back off. Like the car just gets loose or something. He can't stay in it.
Matt Kenseth trying to block 3 lanes at once. Regan Smith down to the bottom. Kenseth wins it for Jack Roush. Regan Smith is second. Jimmy Johnson third. Elliott Sadler. Greg Biffle led all those laps to wind up 5th. And the 2 drivers to transfer into the Daytona 500. Dave Blaney gets the job done. One more time for Tommy Baldwin. Blaney, former World of Outlaws champion, he's a racer. He raced in. And Joe Nemechek, who has made the 500 the last 2 years on qualifying speed, races his way in as he did back in 2007. Want to see it again?
I do, and I really feel like that. What Biffle, I mean, he was in a bad spot, okay. But I'm thinking if he hadn't have made that move up right here, he's coming off of 4. He knows that Kenseth in the 17 is coming. Here he decides to block, but the problem is when you make that cross like that, you lose your momentum. Those guys drove right to the bottom. He's got Jimmy Johnson pushing him, and Biffle he's out of here.
Jimmy Johnson is about blowing up.
And then on the backstretch, here's Matt trying to block 3 lanes at once. Smith down to the inside. Whoa, big contact with Jimmy Johnson there.
And that was huge, I think, for Matt Kenseth, because right there, Regan Smith was getting a good push by Boyer.
So Smith had to regroup, had no help, and Kenseth got just enough of a lead. I agree, Larry. The 2 Chevrolets getting the other in the backstretch pretty much handed that win to Ford today.
Yeah, you can't make contact like that on that. You just lose so much speed.
You know, we talked about maybe teammates helping each other. I don't think Greg Biffle and Matt Kenseth were part of that conversation.
But the cat in the hat, he's probably happy right now, Jack Roush.
Matt Kenseth wins Gatorade Duel number 2 to earn a spot on the 2nd row for Sunday's Daytona 500. And here's your touch of gray, winning touch. Greg Biffle on defense tries to come up and cover the spot. Watch Matt Kenseth grab a bit of wheel off the bumper of Stanley Steamer there, Jimmy Johnson. And Kenseth drops right to the bottom with 1 lap to go. sails off to win it. His first dual win in his 13th try, Steve.
Former Daytona 500 champion Matt Kenseth to victory lane. And Matt, talk about the winning move, the move you pulled on your teammate Greg Biffle.
Well, really, I was back a little bit, and I was kind of waiting for Jimmy, and Jimmy worked really good with me today. He gave us a push to get us to the front early, and I was going to try to make a plan with him, and he got out of line one time, so I got up there to try to help him, and not sure how we got in front of him, but he gave me really the push to win. And this Ford was so fast, thanks to Doug Yates and the guys in Engine Shops. They've been pretty stout all weekend. And real quick, I need to thank Best Buy, Sprint, Valvoline, Zest Soap, and for sure Gatorade. These are great races. First time I've been able to win one of these things.
All right, now I saw Jimmy Fennick, your crew chief, with his palms up like this. What was he saying?
He said I'm so bad at it. They're like, it must have been an accident. How else did you end up down here? So this car was really fast. When we got out front early, I could feel it had a lot of speed, and made a few wrong moves, shuffled to the back, but able to get it to the front there at the end.
All right, congratulations, Matt. Let's go to Mike Joy.
Thanks, Steve. Congratulations to Matt Kenseth, to Dave Blaney, who raced his way in, and to Joe Nemechek, who kind of had a tough day, got himself a lap down. But Joe, once again, you're in the Daytona 500.
Okay. Hi, Grace.
Coming to the checkers. We're in the Daytona 500, boys. Great job, Joe. We did what we had to do. Yeah, 10-4. Make sure you thank Bill for me there.
In 2009, Joe Nemechek did not finish high enough in his 150-miler. Didn't make the Daytona 500. And today, what an eventful day. Tell us about it.
I tell you talk about stress in your life. Oh, my gosh. I can't thank the people who helped me get here. AMFMenergy.com for your wood and heating needs. They also coming out with a new pellet grilled barbecue grill. You got to check it out. But it's just incredible. I mean, during the race, when we pitted, I had to pit at least 1 lap, maybe 2 laps early because the fuel pressure gauge went down. So I didn't know if I was going to be out of gas. Just luckily, my teammate Bill Elliott was on pit road at the same time, and everybody mind their P's and Q's out there pretty good. Man, I tell you what a relief. I tell you what, there's been a lot of Tums taken this week. People just have no clue how hard it is, and working with very limited funds. We do a lot. Mom's pulling for me. My wife and kids are here. It's a big day to make the Daytona 500.
What they have a lot of in this team is a lot of heart. Matt?
Zant owner Tom Baldwin Jr. has already come by and congratulated his driver Dave Blaney. What does it mean for you, and especially TBR, to make it in the Great American Race?
Well, it's big for anybody, big for me, but especially big for the team. Man, oh man, you don't want to come down here with a car this nice and equipment this nice and miss the race. So, and we had to run smart today and not take any chances and be a little cautious on the pit stop. But flawless race car and could run near the front early. It could pretty easily. So, just relieved, I guess.
Good luck on Sunday, Mike.
Great job by Blaney, who always seems to drive to the occasion. Here's our Napa results of Gatorade Duel number 2. Kenseth, Smith, Johnson, Sadler, Biffle, the top 5. Logano and Busch some distance back. Gordon, Newman, and Casey Kane, the top 10. Mark Martin, Dave Blaney races in. Truex, Busch, and Boyer, and Labonte. Then Nemechek races in. Casey Mears, Robert Richardson disappointed. 2 laps down. He goes home along with Bill Elliott, Kenny Wallace, and J.J. Yaley. So here are the drivers who will not start the Daytona 500. The Wallace brothers, Kenny and Mike, Robert Richardson, J.J. Yaley, Bill Elliott, and for the first time since 1972, there won't be a Waltrip in the Daytona 500. Here's a look at the Gatorade starting lineup for the Daytona 500 this Sunday on Fox, with 3 Roush Fenway Fords in the front 4 spots. Edwards and Biffle won the front row last Sunday. Matt Kenseth wins his qualifier. So does Tony Stewart, who has 3 Chevrolets in that pocket. Stewart, Earnhardt Jr., and Regan Smith. Marcus Ambrose has been fast all week. So too Jimmy Johnson. Jeff Burton, Elliott Sadler, Michael McDowell, great job racing his way in. Logano, Harvick, Busch, Allmendinger, Jeff Gordon back in 16. And a look back through the rest of this starting lineup, a mixture of veterans and rookies and hopefuls. Nice job by Dave Blaney to race his way into the show just moments ago. Danica Patrick will have to shake off the effects of that hard crash at the end of duel number 1 as she starts from the 15th row with Clint Boyer. Paul Menard deep in the field. His car had been fast all week, but he got caught up in that wreck with Montoya and Gilliland. Joe Nemechek races in. Tony Raines and David Stremme, that little team with total personnel 8. But he's in the Daytona 500, and Terry Labonte gets the champion's provisional. Jack Roush celebrates with Jimmy Fennick as we look ahead to the great American race. And the Fords that won the front row and were so fast today, Darrell, they got 3 Fords, 3 Chevrolets right with them, Toyotas, Dodges, and boy, it's going to be a big deal on Sunday.
Oh, you know, we didn't see a lot of 2-car tandems, and it didn't work out like I thought. I thought teammates in this race, particularly the second one, might have worked together to try to win this thing. But if you saw with Kenseth and Biffle at the end, there were no team orders. So it's interesting how things will shake out. I think one thing that lived up to what we always thought, though, the first one pretty wild, the second one pretty tame.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we learned today, and of course it's going to be a little cooler on Sunday, but that's going to help this engine situation, but a lot of drivers overheating. I know the Fords are fast, like you mentioned. All 3 of the Roush Fenway Fords, the first 2 rows, but can Tony Stewart, in his 14th try, he's had a good speed weeks, can he seal the deal on the Daytona 500?
Oh, we'll find out Sunday. Michael Waltrip, you were in that first race. I was impressed from a fan standpoint at how nobody could get away. Whether it was a pack or whether it was a 2-car, it looks like cars could work together, and you did it. You could move up through the field and get to the front, but nobody was getting away.
Yeah, NASCAR's done a great job of making these cars just difficult enough to drive when you're pushing on each other, where you have to be very respectful of the other competitors. Down in the corner, you better not be pushing too hard, he'll spin out. And then you have the temperature you have to deal with. So there's a lot of factors that these drivers have to deal with, but a big pack in the first race, a lot of action, a lot of excitement. And I watched my brother this morning on the pre-race. He said, the second one will be calm. I'll be darned, DW. You know something about what's going on out there, don't you, brother?
Hey, Mike, when the temperature starts to go up, how much time have you got to get it? How long can you run behind somebody with the temp going up before you got to bail?
Literally a half a lap, Darrell. I don't think that car, I don't think Jimmy Johnson had enough engine left in him to continue the speed. They just lose so much power when they go up around 260, 270. He was blowing water. They were pretty much done when they took the white flag. So I think about a half lap's all you got, and you really have to manage your temperatures during the course of the running.
I know, Michael, you came in here and sat with us. I feel like the Hollywood Hotel turned into Heartbreak Hotel when you came in. We feel so badly for you. But you pointed right to this. It was a race record speed in that second duel.
Yeah, if you like fast speeds and you like high banks, you better tune in to the Daytona 500 on Fox, because 194 miles an hour, that's amazing. They ran 150 miles at that kind of speed. It's going to be jam-packed action on Sunday.
Well, your buddy, Dale Earnhardt Jr., said it will be epic. Do not miss this sort of racing, because what we'll see on Sunday, the coverage at Daytona International Speedway for NASCAR's biggest race, it's on Fox. Defending Sprint Cup Series champion Tony Stewart, and don't forget about rookie Danica Patrick, highlighting a full field of drivers looking to take home auto racing's ultimate prize. Fox Sports is proud to bring you exclusive coverage of the Great American Race, Sunday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Of course, the duel all about drivers like McDowell, Robbie Gordon, Blaney, Nemechek. They can tell their friends they'll be racing on Sunday. Matt Kenseth wins, so does Tony Stewart. Larry McReynolds mentioned that Tony Stewart trying to win his very first Daytona 500. Matt Kenseth has won it before. Of course, Trevor Bayne wrecked in the duel last year, Michael, but went on to win the Daytona 500. Danica Patrick hoping history repeats itself.
Yeah, DW won his first Daytona 500 in his 17th try. I won my first in my 15th. Could be good for Tony Stewart. It's 14th.
We love the numbers. There will be some sleepless nights for drivers as they try to formulate a game plan. More coverage on Speed with Victory Lane and John Roberts right now.